Okie dokie. So, part 3, yay! Hopefully final part. Yes, 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 yes. Do I think it's possible that we can upload the human mind to a computer, or is there something more? And of course, why? Now, AI is my subject of interest. This topic is kind of out of not something I really look into, but I will say yes. I think it's, and I be more explicit, I think it's possible to it will be possible to both upload our thoughts and memories, and I think we can exist in a computer. Now, I purposely say there's the uploading part, and then there's the existing part, to get a clear idea of the topics. I think first I talk about if we can exist in a computer, and I think that's only possible if we can figure out how our minds work. We have to know that, and then of course if we know, then we can do it, type of thing, argument. But let's see, and I talk about throwing my idea of AI in there and stuff, logical format, and I think with the way I have format, the only thing you have to do if my AI project works like the human brain does, without the need to simulate fucking neurons like big deep blue whatever, that my and I'm not I think isn't deep blue like the computer that beat the dude in chess, because that's what I keep thinking of when I say the name, but when I load up the web pages, I think the Deep Blue project is like the server that started in 2013 and 2023. It's going to be done, and it's going to be able to simulate a human brain, like each little neuron type of thing. But that's how big they have to make it to be able to simulate each neuron with the technology that they're using. But like I say, the experiences make people, and that's just subjective theory and other types of theories and whatnot. And because that's how my system kind of works, my logic format is like it's a system of our reasoning, memories, and whatnot. If we can upload our memories and experiences and add and put them into a computer that thinks like us or is capable of thinking like we are, then I think that will allow people to be in a computer and exist. That's just, I think it can. So I have not seen something more than this. Like, it's very, I talk about, did I talk about? Yeah, the conscious thing where you could turn it on and off. But for the most part, what did I say in here? I say this because I think I figured out how people are just as reasonable and logical based on subjective theory, and I have been able to explain most behavior patterns by this theory. So I have not seen something more than this, or in the sense I don't think there's no evidence for a spirit or something more other than people's abilities. And I've heard many cases of, I know what I saw, it can't be explained otherwise, blah blah blah. Bullshit is what I wanted to say a lot when people say that, because I think it's more of, because you can't explain, but someone else could explain, or someone who actually knew the situation, like if you're being pranked or something, that there's the potential that it can be explained. The potential. And there's the wrong explanation, the right explanation, or there's marginally something, and that goes into different types of factual claiming type of thing, of assumptions and stuff. That's a whole different area of philosophy. Now, I believe, I know 3 facts to be real about my existence, but I'm not even, is it 3 facts? I'm not even going to touch about that, but I believe or think we have 6 senses: vision, touch, taste, hearing, smell, and pain. Now, I said 6 senses. I'm not talking about the 6th sense. I'm talking about pain. And people could argue it's touch, but taste and smell, those are the same type of sensory input, but we pretty much label them differently, and I don't think we do kind of think of them differently in our head if we were a program. Vision, that's all on its own, but touch, well, technically hearing is touch. It's the touch nerves of the hairs and our ear thingy, not our ear canal, but the actual organ that picks up hearing and whatnot. But and that also gives us our sense of direction, or sense of orientation. But that's just the touch sensor. It's perceived differently, and because you can play with that in like programs. If I was making a program, I would have pain as a different type of classification. For that reason, that's why I have that in there. And I realized that when I was reading some of Aristotle's philosophies and making some connections and, pain of hunger and stuff. Now, I didn't agree with his philosophy at all. Like, I destroyed in my 70-page essay. But I didn't say it was wrong. I said it could be applied and skewed. But I found a way to integrate into a huge model of human patternly behavior of processes and stuff. And that was just me trying to figure out the decision format. Then I got the logic format. There's something else. I don't even remember. Oh, the learning format. I said, I don't even fucking know. And then I got to relate everything, and I still haven't figured out. But I define logic as patterns, and I can explain completely about that. That goes in my program. But have you ever felt anything crawl on you, but there's nothing there? Or that's an example of misperception, and that's just your touch sensor. Or you saw something and you know it. Or like I keep saying, Socrates, the only thing I know is that I know nothing. And that's the theories of subjective assumption needed to be able to make choices and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. So there's that. And that might be needed to be explained, but no, I'm not gonna do it. Yeah, that's why I'm and subjective reasoning required, and that we need to make a mandate. I understand that subjectivity and reasoning requires that we think with what we know, mandates that we perceive what we think reality to be true, rhetorical context and all, but one thing to add to this, it's just modular ownership, grouping, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know what I'm talking about. What is this link for? Oh, that's the thing where, it's the guy I can't find the right video, but this guy brings in, there is a part of the brain that's designed to recognize faces. So, the face on Mars, it looks like a face to us. We don't think it's actually someone there. Of course, we know it's just a formation of rocks, mountains, whatever. But we can recognize things, or a wall outlet looks like my little Moshicon faces. You can recognize those faces. You have the ability to recognize, and there's a part of the brain that's dedicated to that. And I can't find the right video, but there was someone explaining where it's actually if you feel like someone's watching at the corner of your eyes, that's because you have this social ability to talk to people, and so it recognize faces, and it makes you want to look at it, type of thing. Couldn't find that thing. Oh, and this is where I finally make the more appropriate quote. I say it a lot though, but I don't quote him enough. Now, I talked about my own supernatural experience. I had this very old house, Deming Tree Farms is where I lived. And so it's this L-shaped house, and this one end is like a hallway. It leads to 3 rooms. One of the rooms was mine. And at some point in time, I started to go to bed, but I didn't go to sleep. And I started to hear this clicking, tapping, spitting sound. And it kind of creeped me out, but it was an old house, nothing much. But I started to notice that if I didn't go to sleep soon enough, I would hear it at night. And if I didn't fall asleep soon, what happens is if I stayed awake, it would get louder and louder. And it sounded like a cough or a laugh, like that, like I could hear it more clearly. But what scared me the most is that it was able to move. The sound came from the hall, the end of the hall, and slowly came to my door and would able to come into my room. And eventually I'm under my covers, and this thing's laughing right at my face. I don't know if it was above the cover or in the cover, and it just was the most terrifying thing in the world. And so, try to make myself go to sleep as much as possible, so I wouldn't have to experience that. But that would only happen once in a while. It wasn't a regular thing. But so I weathered it, whatever. And what bugs me, another supernatural thing is that it happened once in a while, but whenever I type my story about it, my screen freaks the fuck out. My cursor's going every fucking which way. It pisses me off. No matter what computer I use, this is like the best computer so far I've worked on to type, and it's still crap, but it acts like it has RAM issues. My old desktop and stuff. And that's just, you know, unreasonable connections, but that's just my experience. Is just it's real affects shit. And the thing is, my best explanation for 2 years or something like that was I learned that the hallway, like there's a chimney on the outside of the house connected to that wall. I'm like, why don't I see a chimney here? That's because it's like a really fucking old house. You can really tell. And so when it's been changed so many parts of the house, are at least 100 years old, not all of the house, but this wall, which has a whole bunch of cells on it for stuff, and it was all covered in dust and whatnot, it's got a chimney behind it. And I thought maybe perhaps something, there's a lot of dead animals at least on the other side of it, but I thought somebody or something at least was fucking behind that wall and, you know, reaching out to me or whatever. And so it freaked the fuck out of me. Now I think it was about 10 or 12, and I figured a better explanation because I made a bunch of connections. But like, here's what was happening. We're watching TV in the living room, and I hear tapping, something tapping. Now it didn't sound exactly like what I heard, but the sound was the fire alarm above us. And my mom explained to me it was just when the battery goes pretty low, it starts to make that chirping sound now and then. And I thought that maybe this is what I was hearing, because I made that connection because prior to that I learned a few things. That I learned that higher frequency sounds, because of the energy they have, they bounce off better and keep going without losing the volume. And so you can't, it's hard to find the source. Such as one of those pranks is to get like a little piezo alarm, stick it underneath the desk and have it timed to go off. And no, it takes like 30 minutes to find the fuck, and like you do that in a classroom, it's a fun prank. Or like on top of the frickin' light. I think a light post is too high, but you put on top of a car and people have a hard time finding it. Because, you know, you put on top of the car and the sound travels above all of the cars, so you can't really figure out where it's coming from. But that's one thing I learned. I also learned that from Mythbusters, both your eyes and your ears become more sensitive. If you like cover up your eye for 30 minutes, you'll be able to like see nighttime vision, whatever. And if you like strain to listen to something, you eventually get louder, or your ears get more sensitive, or not really sensitive, but try to adapt to find it. And let's see. I think I remember finding an old smoke detector on the shelf, and I assume that someone put the battery in or whatever, because it doesn't chirp anymore or whatever. But I figured that what was happening is my hearing was getting better as I was like, you know, in my quiet room, and it would start to chirp, and my ears would hear that and try and pick it up loud, and that's why it would sound like it's getting louder. But the reason I thought it might be in front of me or in the hall is just my illusion coming from the volume. And because it was traveling so well, I could hear it like right in front of my face, and my ears getting so sensitive. And because I didn't recognize what the sound was, I thought it was laughter or a cough. It was so annoying. But that's my best explanation. I don't know what you could define it as best, but that's the explanation I go with now. But the thing is, I can't actually test this. I don't live there anymore, and I never like got to hear if it was actually chirping and if it sounded like what I thought it sounded like. So I never got to test it. So I can't say, and I was right. But that's what I assume is the situation. So basically, I think there's an explanation for everything. Science, like one of the biggest misperception, of course, is science says things happen by chance, random. Not really. I mean, if you go to quantum physics, you could start arguing otherwise, but I'm going to ignore that. For the most part, systems are far too complex for us to understand them, to understand the outcome. Like why a dice, like why you get that number for rolling a dice, where you have to like recognize like the way it moves and all that, all the physics and stuff. And there's so many videos about science is not just random stuff, and like so many videos about this. No. Possible to be on a computer. Now there's consideration of. So I think it's possible that someone can be on a computer. Wait, why was I talking about all of this? I don't even remember. Yeah, my nose is all itchy. I think it's possible for a person to be on a computer. What was I talking about? I guess I was just saying there's an explanation for everything. I don't know. But I think it's possible for someone to be in a computer. Now, there is a consideration that our brains are very powerful, and that, the Deep Blue project would take 10 years or whatever. But, I say our technology could advance and whatnot, so I don't think that's like we need to consider the worry of the current limitations or potential limitations, but assuming the technology is there. Now, with the Deep Blue project, trying to simulate the brain, I don't think that's the way to go, but do different things. Try everything you can. Diversity is key. That's what I say. Diversity is key. Yeah, look at me being American or whatever, and being safe or whatever. Now, I broke it into two parts. There's the being the computer and then the uploading. I think maybe uploading would be the biggest struggle because we have to understand the brain a bit more just to be able to figure out how you can take the state of mind and put into a computer without, fucking them up. Now, I think potentially this is like the thing I know the least amount of information about, or have the least amount of judgment or view on it. I don't focus on it enough. It's not really my focus, I say. But thankfully for me, that this was a subject talked about at the AI conference. So we have a very limited idea of how the brain works. Once we figure it out, we therefore will know how to upload it type of thing. That's the omniscience type of argument. But like when people think about it, like I don't think putting probes in the brain is the best way or a practical way of capturing the current state of mind. But some form of scan that tells us the state of mind would be best, I think. Currently, to know what the brain is doing, we have the MRI, the tool of choice. And I think, from what I've studied, in an MRI, just gets a view of what you look like all the way through. And I think that does that in planes where it can scan you and get a 3D model. But as for a real-time thing, saying what the brain is doing, what it does is it looks at your arteries, your veins that are in your brain, and sees how they move, how they change. And basically looks for expansion, which hints at blood flow, which hints at activity or stimulation, such as brain cells love oxygen. You give them oxygen, and that's like assuming the evolutionary theory of learning done by brain cells. But that's all we can do, or have been able to do. And doesn't that really sound primitive, I ask? But at this conference, I learned of a new technique that I could not find for the life of me, but I got what video I could that kind of shows it. Doesn't show it. You see a rat brain, or rat brain cell, and it looks kind of green because there's this fluid that you inject in, and it goes and it tints your brain cells, and what it does is it lights up kind of when the brain cell's active, so you can like literally watch the brain be doing stuff. But of course, you can't like just look at the brain. There's light going on inside of it. So you have to like do a scan thing. There's like an MRI X-ray mix, something where you just put light through whatever high energy magnetics, and then you see how the tinting lights up or messes with the things, and you get a sense of what the activity is. And that could be a more practical way of capturing the state of mind at the time. So I think that's a potential. Did I talk about that? Oh, and the last thing I think. Now, the last thing is a bit more of a more out there idea of how I think we can upload, and that's like teleportation. And that's quantum physics, but rather than transferring the information that makes your body and your existence and transfer it to other particles in some other place of the galaxy, I think what could be done instead is put into a computer, and the computer recognizes all of these things and knows what your state of mind is at the moment you got vaporized and stuff, and then it just loads that up to a computer, assuming that we know how the brain works. And that could be another potential. But so yeah, I guess that's a very mad scientist type of view I have. But it's not crazy. It's just subjective to what I've experienced. So that's my part of the discussion. Anyone else wish to carry on? Let's see, what time am I at? 20 minutes. Doing good. Should I break up that? I don't even... No, I was about to say, should I break up that edit video, but my laptop, it's so shitty. I can't do video editing and, you know, free. I want free stuff. Which I could buy stuff, but I'm not... no. Freelance, all the way. So, I'm gonna see if... I've been playing music. I was gonna like make sure it was copyrighted or Creative Commons, but yeah. Okay, I think I'm done.